A federal appeals court granted a request from the Trump administration to temporarily pause a ruling that struck down a majority of President Trump's tariffs.
President Trump is in the process of rebalancing America's trading agreements with the entire world, bringing tens of billions of dollars in tariff revenues to our country, and finally ending the United States of America from being ripped off. These judges are threatening to undermine the credibility of the United States on the world stage.
This comes after a three-judge panel on the U.S. Court of International Trade halted President Trump's Liberation Day tariffs, essentially arguing the president overstepped his bounds.
The courts should have no role here.
The ruling also extended to his tariffs on Canada, Mexico, and China over border security and stopping fentanyl. All of these tariffs were imposed by the International Emergencies Economic Powers Act, which gives the president the broad authority to regulate economic transactions during a national emergency.
They said, well, look, the statute doesn't even mention tariffs, and the emergency that the statute does mention implies it has to be a true emergency, and they argued that, look, the trade imbalance has been going on for years, so what's the emergency? But then the court also ruled, and this is interesting, that even if the statute did give the president the power to unilaterally decide when to impose these tariffs, that the Congress cannot delegate that power to the president. That's what we call the non-delegation doctrine.
Paul Kamenar of the National Legal and Policy Center says the ruling raises very troubling questions.
People around the world are saying, what's going on? Who's in charge here? Is it Trump or is it the courts? So this definitely has a monkey wrench thrown into the whole trade situation.
The administration believes that President Trump holds an absolute right to conduct foreign policy and protect national security, and thinks they will win on appeal. Kamenar shares the sentiment.
I think the government does have some good arguments with respect to whether or not they can second guess whether there's an emergency going on. And I think that's basically within the province of the executive branch, and the courts should not be second guessing that aspect of the president's power under this particular law.
Deputy White House Chief of Staff for Policy Stephen Miller said we were living in a judicial tyranny after the ruling.
Nationwide injunctions ordered against the first Trump administration, Trump 1.0, account for more than half of the injunctions issued in this country since 1963. And President Trump had more injunctions in one full month of office in February than Joe Biden had in 3 years.
The White House pushes the message that the court system has it out for President Trump.
I think as an overall matter, the courts have been very super active, so to speak, in terms of asserting judicial power over the executive branch.
Kamenar says many plaintiffs are forum shopping, seeking liberal judges in liberal districts to get favorable rulings.
I think the courts are trying to interject in the executive power here, and it is too much, I think, in many cases. But on the other hand, the courts do have a role, and if the president exceeds his constitutional powers, he himself said he will obey the Supreme Court. So it's just a matter of these cases working their way to the Supreme Court and seeing whether they're going to be struck down or whether they'll be upheld.
The Trump administration indicated that it might seek emergency relief from the Supreme Court on the tariff issue as soon as Friday. And we'll have to wait to see how that plays out. Daniel Baldwin, One American News, the White House.